In the farming town of Greystone, the Whitford Clinic stood like a monument. Its lights burned late into the night, and its doctor, Charles Whitford, was adored. He delivered every child in town, buried half its dead, and seemed to exist without aging, as if he belonged to the building itself. But the clinic wasn't just a place of healing. The ground beneath it was older than Greystone. The Kearney family, longtime nurses and caretakers of the house, whispered that the land had been marked before the town was built, a place where settlers found stone altars blackened by fire and bones too small to be animals. Each October, the clinic grew restless. The lamps flickered in the upper windows. The walls seemed to hum, and every Halloween, tragedy struck. An infant stillborn, a child vanishing into the cornfields, a crib death no one could explain. When Dr. Whitford vanished on October 13, 1998, the town panicked. His clinic door was ajar, kettle hissing on the stove, coat still on the rack. He was simply gone. The sheriff organized search parties, but every trail ended at the clinic. Dogs refused to go near it, whining and pulling against their leashes. Children claimed to see him standing in the upstairs window, watching with eyes that glowed in the dark. Sheriff Boone broke into the basement and found a sealed chamber beneath the foundation. It was not built with the rest of the clinic. It was older, carved from the stone itself. On the walls, figures etched in spirals, holding infants aloft before a towering, faceless god. On the floor, dozens of tiny bundles wrapped in decayed blankets, bones rattling inside, blankets stitched with initials. Children the town had buried as stillborns, and stacked neatly in iron cabinets. Dr. Whitford's journals, written in the same hand back to the late 1800s. Each described October sacrifices. The first breath given freely sustains the cycle, and each was signed with the same neat script, Charles Whitford, M.D. The Kearneys confessed first. Margaret, his receptionist, spoke with shaking lips. The clinic was never his. It belongs to the God beneath. We only kept it fed. One child each year on All Hallows. That was the pact. That was the price. Whitford had not just delivered babies, he had harvested them. The moment of first breath, when the soul is weakest, was offered to the God in the stones below. The clinic was not a place of medicine, but a temple disguised as one. For a century, the town had whispered about its luck. No droughts, no epidemics, no blights. Greystone had prospered while neighboring towns withered. And now Boone knew why. Margaret claimed she had ended it, that she had turned Whitford's own ritual against him, binding him into the foundation, leaving him to rot in the dark with the God he served. But the town could not escape. Every Halloween, children cried of nightmares. Parents reported hearing muffled sobs coming from the boarded clinic. Farmers swore they saw pale hands clawing at the windows, as though dozens of children were trapped inside, begging to be released. And every so often, a child disappeared again, vanishing from locked bedrooms, leaving only the faint smell of antiseptic and a whisper echoing through the house. Breathe for me, just once more. The clinic still stands. No one will tear it down. The sheriff resigned after scrawling one final note. The God does not rest. The house waits. And every October, Greystone belongs to it again. Some nights, if you press your ear to the old clinic door, you can hear the sound of dozens of tiny lungs gasping in unison, and beneath it, a deeper rumble, like the breathing of something impossibly ancient, buried in the stone. Greystone thought the nightmare had ended when Whitford vanished. The clinic was boarded up, the basement sealed, and Sheriff Boone swore the town would never again speak of what they'd found. But silence is not protection. On Halloween night, 3 years later, the fog rolled thicker than ever before. Families locked their doors early. Yet by midnight, the windows of the Whitford Clinic blazed again with sickly orange light. Witnesses claimed they saw Dr. Whitford standing in the doorway, his coat torn and his glasses cracked, but his body whole, as if he had simply walked out of the earth. And he was not alone. Behind him came others. Men and women in dark coats, faces hidden, each carrying a long, rusted machete. Colleagues, fellow physicians of the old order, bound to the same god. The sounds came first, the wet scrape of blades being dragged across the cobblestones, then the screams. One by one, doors were smashed open. Whitford and his circle moved through Greystone like a tide, cutting down anyone who resisted. Houses burned. The air filled with the stench of blood and smoke. Some bodies were buried in the cursed earth behind the clinic, sacrifices offered directly to the god below. Others were dragged to the shore, their corpses weighted with stone and thrown into the black ocean, offerings cast into the abyss. By dawn, Greystone was silent. The survivors whispered that Whitford had not returned as a man but as something worse, an eternal servant of the god beneath the stones. His colleagues were the other physicians of that ancient pact, returned to claim what the town had denied them. And still, if you walk the ruins of Greystone today, you will hear it. Asterisk the hiss of the kettle, boiling eternally in the clinic kitchen. Asterisk the ragged cries of infants echoing under the floorboards. Asterisk, and most chilling of all, the measured footsteps of many boots, circling in the fog, waiting for the next offering. Because in Greystone, Dr. Charles Whitford never died. He only went to fetch the others. The tale of Greystone ends in silence, but silence does not mean peace. Some say the clinic still stands, though no map dares to mark its place. Others whisper that if you drive the old coastal roads on Halloween night, you'll see a light burning in the upstairs window, orange, flickering, like the glow of a furnace. And if you lean close enough, you'll hear it too. The cries of children, the hiss of a kettle, and the faint scrape of boots approaching from behind. But the real horror, Greystone was only the beginning. Whitford and his colleagues were not bound to one town. Their pact was far older, and their god far hungrier. And if you're hearing this, you should wonder why. Because maybe they're already here,